Yes then, EFD squad, and welcome back to the Euro Roundup, where you pick our winners and losers from the game week just past. Joining me, it's Boldiola, it's the one and only, Stoogie Critchley, Captain Samba. How was your weekend?
Very good, very good. We had the football social on Saturday, had a friend's birthday in the evening, then caught up with more football yesterday. So a very football-orientated weekend. I enjoyed it a lot, getting over that rugby disappointment.
Wearing your puppy as well? Very
Wearing my
respectful.
puppy, exactly.
Yeah.
Bought this morning.
Oh,
fresh
touch
to go.
hands there. That was a little bit intimate. I went to IKEA on Sunday because I'm moving, and I felt like I was in there for about 18 hours.
Meatballs?
Did try the meatballs for the first time.
Good man.
Can verify they're decent. A little bit school dinnery.
Okay.
Yeah, as in, it's cheap meat, isn't it?
Yeah, you know what you're getting.
Probably horse. And talking of horse, who was it that Mines were horse. RB Leipzig absolutely battered them. This comes from Cameron Smith 10. What happened? Because this was a mauling.
Yeah, it was an absolute mauling. 8-0 to Leipzig. They recorded their biggest ever club win. And star of the show was the man who got a hat-trick of goals and assists.
Timo.
So 3 of each, Timo Werner. In Opta history, only Claudio Pizarro has been involved in as many goals in a single Bundesliga match. He got 4 goals and 2 assists in a game in 2013. This now brings the German hitman's tally up to 12 goal involvements in 10 appearances this term. Only Lewandowski has been part of more in the Bundesliga with 14, and only Ciro Immobile has been involved in more alongside Lewandowski in Europe's top 5 leagues. As you'd expect, it was a world-class, dominant performance from Nagelsmann's side. They had an XG of 4 to Mainz's 0.9. They had 68% possession with 12 shots on target. They were cutting through them at will. Mainz altogether managed just 9 attempts on goal, well shy of their usual 14 per game they've averaged so far this season. But quite rightly, all the plaudits ended up at the feet of Timo Werner. I think just because he's got the ability to play on the wing, he's just so comfortable across the front line, and he's never out of the game, and he was just electric in this, and his stats suggest that, Chris.
And he's really pacey as well, which means he is very tactically versatile, like you said. And this is a guy we've touted to move to a big club for 3 or 4 years now, or maybe 2 or 3 years. Probably coming on a bit strong there. And Liverpool, rumours persisted with Liverpool, didn't they?
Bayern.
Didn't quite come to fruition. He seems like he's going to be the long-term heir to Lewandowski at Bayern, but Lewandowski's just not aging
Going and going.
at all. He's like a fine wine, if anything. But let's unpick his 90 in this game. 4 shots on target, 2 dribbles completed, 5 key passes, which goes back to what you were saying. He's not just a striker.
No.
He is a creator as well, which is a match high. No surprise there. He completed 96%. It was 45 passes as well. 45 passes, just to give you some context. I reckon Mauro Icardi at a dominant PSG completes about 11 passes.
Yeah, I think Vardy sits at about 12, 13.
Yeah,
so
that
crazy.
is heavily involved with play for a forward player. Now his expected goals and assists now stand at 1.4 per 90 combined, which is absolutely frivolous. The guy is just 23.
Getting better and better.
God, makes me feel old. I saw that Carlos Tevez was 35 this morning.
I know.
And it made me feel really old. And he's got Carlitos on the back of his shirt now.
Still a Boca.
Yeah, he's got an overhead kick. Shout out
Did
Carlitos,
he?
Yeah. Back to this game anyway. And Nkunku also getting in the mix. He helped with 3 of the goals, meaning he's now averaging 1.5 goals or assists per 90 so far this season. He, of course, moved from PSG, deemed surplus to requirements there. Might have been a bit of a mistake, a little bit like Odsonne Edouard. Looking good value for that 15 million euros as well that Leipzig paid for him, with his 4 dribbles and key passes causing poor Pierre Gabriel a headache at right back in this game. The Bundesliga, at the moment, arguably one of the most exciting leagues in the top 5 at the very least, with just 7 points separating leaders Borussia Mönchengladbach to 10th place Bayer Leverkusen. Now, can the unfancied German club continue to frighten Munich? I mean, we're going to get on to Munich in a second.
Yeah.
That was a little bit of a calamity as well, wasn't it? Let us know in the comments below. Moving on.
Before we go on to our first loser, which is Barcelona, just a quick reminder to subscribe to Euro Football Daily and hit that notification bell to never miss an ERU. And just a quick announcement that we are doing another Total Football tomorrow. It's the return leg even of Chelsea versus Ajax. It'll be myself, Chris, Obaseki, McCubbin. Dream lineup, should be a great evening. But let's get into Barcelona at the suggestion of @Luca Frigerio 11.
What was that?
Frigario.
Frigario. It was like a little chant from you. Anyway, let's move on to the game and not Doogie singing. Barca now level on points with Real and Real Sociedad and just one ahead of Sevilla and Atleti after that 3-1 away loss to Levante on Saturday. It's the third time that Levante have beaten Valverde's Barcelona more than any other side. So well and truly a booby side for the Catalans. And it ended a run of 7 successive victories for Valverde, which had alleviated some of the pressure on him following those early losses to both Bilbao and Granada, if memory serves me correctly. It's the club's third loss in 11 league games so far, equaling their record from the whole of the 18-19 campaign already. In fact, if they continue at this rate, they'll lose 10 La Liga games. You know, equations. That would be their worst record since 2002-2003, where they lost 12 games. Now, this was a slightly unlucky result for Barcelona, who put up an XG of 2 in the first half alone, taking a lead after 37 minutes when Lionel Messi wrapped away a penalty. But despite only creating an XG of 0.93 in the second half, Levante proceeded to score 3 in the space of 7 minutes. That's why we love the beautiful game, you know. When it ridicules expected goals. You guys think we love expected goals and they're obsessed with it. It's 50-50, all right? Campana, Borja Mayoral, the ex-Real Madrid prodigy, and Nemanja Radoja getting the goals for them. And once that happened, once this flurry of goals happened, Barcelona just couldn't find a different gear, could they?
Yeah, I mean, they ended pretty flatly, really. They couldn't really respond at all. They produced just 4 shots and 0.22 XG in the entirety of the second half, though Messi did have a goal rule out when Griezmann was offside in the build-up.
Antoine.
And frankly, the Blaugrana are lucky to be where they are overall, with Understat rating as the 5th best team in Spain so far. They allow 9.7 shots per game, which is pretty good, but only the 7th best in the division, and take just 12.1, which is the 6th best, and must be the lowest for Barcelona for quite a amount of time. And they're going to face some more struggles in the weeks to come as well. Suarez is set for a spell on the sidelines after going off with a leg injury 4 minutes before half-time. And that'll mean that Griezmann needs to step up, really. He sort of started very well, good performances against Valencia and Real Betis, but he's slowed down considerably in recent weeks, with an average of 2.2 shots and 1 key pass per game in league play, which creates about 0.4 expected goals and assists per 90, which is actually the lowest since he left Real Sociedad prior to that 5 or 6 years at Atletico Madrid. So needs to improve there. I also thought Barcelona were quite sloppy at the back at times. Piqué's clearance went straight to, I can't remember who provided the pass for Campana's build-up, but error there. Longley then a headed clearance at the end led to the 3rd goal as well. So there was lots of errors there, and they really missed Jordi Alba at left-back as well. Nelson Semedo, whilst a very good right-back, probably doesn't offer the same attacking threat on the left flank, although he did win that Messi penalty. But Valverde is now under more pressure than ever, but he'll be glad to see the upcoming fixture against Slavia Prague in midweek, as well as Celta Vigo and Leganés in the league, both currently in the relegation zone. They then play Dortmund in the Champions League and an away trip to Atleti in the league to come. So it feels like, after the Kovac news, which we'll come on to in due course, that Valverde's probably the next in the firing line, despite still being top of La Liga. I think these performances have been pretty bleak.
We mentioned the Bundesliga being really exciting this season. I don't think many points separate 1st and 12th.
Yeah, I think it's about 5. It's absolutely remarkable. There's about 2 points between 1st and 6th. So it's really anyone's game. And Granada have now dropped back to 6th, which you probably expect. But Real Sociedad now level on points. It's a thrilling La Liga and a thrilling Bundesliga.
Love it.
Loving the chaos. Who do you guys think is going to win La Liga? And do you think Valverde will keep his job? Or does this put it under even more pressure? Let us know in the comments below.
Our final winner comes from EFD regularised Tamish Bahal with Eintracht Frankfurt. And we have 2 German winners who aren't Borussia Dortmund, who aren't Bayern Munich. This must be a first,
what a time
but deservedly so. What are they called? The Eagles? What happened with them? Was that an eagle or a crow?
That's an eagle, more crow-like. I like it anyway. Either way. Nico Kovac is out at Bayern after a 9th-minute red card for Jerome Boateng, allowed Adi Hutter's Eintracht Frankfurt to steamroll Bayern Munich, beating the champions 5-1 in a brilliant attacking display. The centre-back You know, got a lot to answer for, caught flat-footed, received his marching orders for a last-man challenge on the edge of the penalty area. It was nearly a penalty, and Eintracht took advantage, scoring 2 first-half goals against Bayern for the first time since 1995 through Filip Kostic and Gibril So.
That was very lucky, by the way, the Kostic one. Hit the back of his foot and then found the side. Yeah. It was just like, ugh.
Yeah, there was a couple of quite fortunate goals in that game, actually. But whilst Robert Lewandowski pulled one back for Bayern with some pretty atrocious defending from Hinterberger, I think it was, before half-time, at the interval, it was still 9 shots to 3 in Eintracht's favour. David Abraham, Hinteregger and Gonzalo Paciencia all added to the scoreline in the second half, with Paciencia now on 6th for the campaign, only behind Lewandowski and Timo Werner, so in some really elite company there.
He came from nowhere as well. He's had a really nomadic career, deemed surplus to requirements at Porto. We covered him on the Extra Time podcast as a potential target for Watford. Now seems like he wouldn't go there. So yeah, go and check that out. But back to you, mate.
I like it. I actually have no idea who he is, so I'm grateful for that information, which I hope you are too. Bayern were already playing a makeshift back four with Alaba at centre-back and Davies playing at full-back, so it's unsurprising they ended up allowing 3xG to their own 1.08. In fact, no team has created that much expected goals against Bayern in a league game since Understat's records began in 2014, and they haven't lost a bully game so heavily since another 5-1 loss, this time against Wolfsburg in April 2009. So records tumbling, and it's spelt the end for Kovac, Christopher.
Yeah, apparently Bayern said that he could continue as manager, that this result wouldn't cost him his job. And we've said this before, that statistically he's been very unlucky as Bayern boss, despite being a league-winning Bayern boss. However, he offered in his resignation, and it might be because of the run of games coming up, or he might just be sick of the burden and the scrutiny. Yes, very good word. They're now 4 points back from league leaders Borussia Mönchengladbach. With Boateng's suspension, subtracting from a rear guard that's already missing Hernandez, Nicolas Sula as well with long-term injuries, Bayern will simply be hoping at this point to regroup, get to the winter break and still be within touching distance of their rivals. So whoever comes in, probably Jupp Heynckes, let's face it, the old silver fox just re-emerging from the Bavarian mist to lead them to another league title. We'll talk about some other candidates in a minute, but I think it'll probably be him. They've now conceded 16 goals in 10 games, their worst record at this point in a season since 2008-09 under Jurgen Klinsmann.
Which was not a good spell,
which was not a good spell whatsoever. And it could very well get worse. Like I just intimated, the run coming up is tough. Brutal. Dortmund, Leverkusen and Gladbach amongst their next 4. Critchley, if you're in charge of the Bavarian hierarchy, if you're in charge of, who is it? Whose name am I trying to think of?
Rummenigge or
yes.
Uli
Hoeneß is who I was thinking of. Thank you. I've put me out of my misery there. Who do you trust the rest of the season with? Or who do you give, a 2-3 year contract to, should they be the right candidate? Because we've seen with Emery at Arsenal, not a lot on the market at the moment to convince top teams to part ways with their manager even after a bad run of form.
Yeah, I think I appreciate your call of Jupp Heynckes, but I think that's very much to the end of the season. But if they could get Allegri on a 2-3 year deal, I think they could do a lot worse. I really like Allegri. I think he got slightly stale at the end of his time at Juve, but before that a very good side. Not such a good record in the latter stages of European competition, although did get to 2 finals but fell at the last hurdle. I think it's a massive step up on Mourinho, whose Bild's talking about so consistently even. Bild called this a couple of weeks ago. Ralf Rangnick's also been linked with the role as well, which I think would be interesting. But for my money, I'd go Allegri. Potentially on a 2-3 year deal now. If not, get Jupp Heynckes in and see who's available next summer, because there could be a plethora of options next summer.
I think the RB establishment would pay him just not to go to Bayern Munich. Ralf Rangnick, that is. He's the professor. He's the father of that whole project.
Head of sport though.
So I'm not sure I see that happening. Maybe if Thomas Tuchel doesn't want to sign another deal at PSG, they can lure him back to Bayern with promises of, and of course, just the best talent in German football.
Of course, for the last couple of years, they've been really chasing Nagelsmann by all accounts as well. So maybe if they really go for him next summer, but he's not going to change Leipzig for Bayern halfway through the campaign. Because
this is a really good squad. It's a little bit bottom heavy. Serge Gnabry being so good was definitely a bonus. But they're a Leroy Sané away from potentially being world beaters again. Exactly. So not exactly a bad time to take over. Who do you guys want to see at the helm? Let us know in the poll just above.
Do it.
Poll.
Our final loser before we get on to Star of the Week is PSG at the suggestion of @TroyMendus, Chris.
Yeah, we were just talking up Thomas Tuchel's credentials,
Yeah.
weren't we? But here we want to talk down this result because they slumped to their third league defeat of the season, losing 2-1 away at Dijon on Friday night. Lundi, mardi, mercredi, jeudi. Is it vendredi?
Vendredi.
On vendredi
Excellent.
night. An amazing result considering they only lost 5 league games in 18-19 on their way to their 8th league title last season. Now, this result was particularly unexpected because PSG have been rampant of late, winning their last 6 games in all competitions, scoring 19 goals and only conceding 1 in reply. So whoever bet on Dijon in this game had an absolute bloody worldie. And things started so well for them as well in the 19th minute with Di Maria getting his 8th Liga and Champions League assist of the season, teeing up Mbappe, who finished deftly for his 7th in just 4 games. This all sounds very PSG, doesn't it? But it stops right there, okay? Because in the 6th minute of first half stoppage time, former Sunderland midfielder Didier Ndong,
And resident Snake.
there we go, crossed for Schuer to finish.
Great
Okay,
pronunciation.
and 2 minutes, well, you know, we'll see what Van Straten says. Always looks down on everyone else's pronunciations.
He
doesn't
does, yeah. He loves it.
Anyway, and some minutes after half time, I think it was 2 minutes in fact, there was some poor defending from Gay, Marquinhos and Paredes, who's inexplicably starting in this game, allowed Jean de Cadiz to score what proved to be the winner in his first start of the season. Icardi hit the bar, and despite PSG having 66% possession in this game and 20 shots, pretty sizable, Tuchel's men could only register 4 on target. So some really bloody good rearguard action from Dijon. Dijon carved out 10 opportunities themselves, so no slouches in that regard either, putting 6 on target. XG actually had the XG at 3.1 to 0.8 in PSG's favour.
Yeah, but I feel like when a result like this happens, we often talk about the big team that hasn't performed. But I think we need to give some credit to Dijon.
Delighted for Dijon.
No one gave Stéphane Joubert's men, I think that's his name, any hope going into this game. They only survived last season via a relegation playoff and sat 20th going into this game. This was their second ever victory against PSG and their first since 2011, having lost the other 10. But this win, their third in their last 5 games, sees them climb to 16th, only above the 3 teams immediately below them on goal difference. So it's tight at the bottom of Liga and it's very tight between about 2nd and 10th as well. It's tight all around Europe this year. It's absolutely mental. Their key man this season has been 30-year-old striker Julio Tavares, who has 3 goals and 1 assist, operating at 0.59 expected goals and assists per 90.
Handy.
Which for a team like Dijon is pretty useful, as you say. And only one other player has more than 1 goal contribution, so it's pretty much the Tavares show at Dijon. Man of the match in this game has to be left winger Schuer, who Chris mentioned earlier.
Schuer.
Please,
you scumbag. Schuer.
And yeah, awesome 90. 6 tackles and interceptions, 1 aerial duel, 1, 2 dribbles, 3 key passes, 1 shot, 1 goal. Mbappe was probably very unlucky to be on the losing side in this. 2 tackles and interceptions, 7 dribbles, 3 key passes, 2 shots, 1 goal. Just Mbappe numbers now. PSG's lead at the top of Ligue 1 still sits at 7 points ahead of Angers, but they'll be desperate to get back to winning ways against Club Brugge in the Champions League on Wednesday. If they win that, they'll be 4 from 4 in the Champions League, almost and definitely through for the next round, and almost definitely as group winners, particularly if Real Madrid fail to beat, I think it's Galatasaray as the 4th team in that league. So, PSG fans, what do you make of this defeat? Was it sort of just a case of a one-off bad game, or does it spell something more dangerous in Liga? And how confident are you of your Champions League hopes going into the knockout rounds come February? Let us know in the comments below, and let's move on to our Star of the Week.
Star of the week goes to Romelu Lukaku, not Jordan Lukaku, disappointingly. And it is Jack and Dean 11 with this suggestion. What did Big Rom do?
Yeah, well, I mean, we obviously would have talked about Timo Werner, but we've already covered him. But we have to talk about Lukaku. He scored 2 goals to come from behind against Bologna to win and send Inter second in Serie A, with the Nerazzurri now winning 9 of their 11 games so far, and they're now just 1 point behind Juventus. The Belgians' goals were his 8th and 9th in the league this campaign, bundling in one from a corner, but still had to be there, and then converting a penalty with aplomb.
A few penalties this season.
Yeah, but it still looks very good. I think he's been a man reborn there. He managed to get 5 of his 7 shots on target against Bologna.
7 shots?
But so far this season, he's actually only averaged 2.6 shots per game, which doesn't sound a lot, but it's even more than 1.7 that he managed last year at United, which just shows how out of kilter he was with the rest of the side necessarily last year, and how he struggled to get a consistent run of form anyway. Lukaku has now scored more goals since the beginning of September than Man United have. Great stat. 9 to United's 6, and 3 of those came in one game against Norwich. Obviously
Which
struggled.
somehow made our winners section last week. And thinking about that now, like, how do we let Joe do that?
Yeah. He's also the first player to score 9 or more in their first 11 Serie A games since R9 in the 97-98 season. So elite company, obviously not comparing him to there. But Chris, the big question comes in midweek in the Champions League for Lukaku.
It does, and he's kind of yet to register an assist or a goal, and only has 0.5 shots per game in Europe's biggest competition. So, like you said, he'll be one. Now he's back amongst the goals. He's put a few demons to rest, hasn't he? But a large criticism that was levelled at him was that he couldn't score against top opposition, and that's continued this season. It's followed him around somewhat, so he'll be hoping to make an impression midweek.
Even in the last week in the office when we mentioned him, Joe was like, well, how many goals has he had in big games? Instantly on the defensive. And I did look it up. I think he'd score against AC Milan, but hadn't scored against Lazio or Juventus. So, yeah, crucial to get maybe a goal or an assist in this one.
Yeah, and after that 1-1 draw with Slavia Prague, and after they failed to capitalise on the winning position against Barcelona, they, of course, overturned Lautaro Martinez's early goal, didn't they? They'll be hoping to maybe a bit more emphatic. I mean, they beat Dortmund 2-0, which was really impressive, wasn't it? They're both on 4 points. The perfect opportunity for Lukaku to really re-announce himself. He's back. And what's Jordan doing? You know, we really want to know.
Still at Lazio.
My iPad is on the piss. It's just done that, so I'm wrapping up the show.
Like the 10th time.
Right there, yeah. It's been an absolute menace, this episode. Do give people are still watching now, what should they go and do after this?
Well, go and check out Winners and Losers on Football Daily, and stay on EFD as well and check out all the Stat Wars, the leagues. I've got my clash against James Wayne, which is being shot after this. I'm incredibly nervous because I could be joining Hamill in a relegation playoff at the moment.
I'm getting relegated from a game that I created. So how do you think I feel? And if you want more in-depth football chat, go and download the Extra Time podcast. We try to save a relegation candidate in the Premier League. Should we do it? Across Europe's top 5. Let us know in the comments below, or on Twitter, or on Doogie's Instagram.
Yeah, maybe not the latter. But thanks very much for watching, guys. Bye.